So the fragile Iran ceasefire deal is holding, I guess, for now, but Gulf states are asking for further clarification on the terms as Tehran finally stops its attacks on them. This includes the UAE, where Matt Finn is standing by with the details. Matt.
Hey, Brian. Right now it's about 3:30 in the afternoon here, and so far the Ministry of Defense says it has not detected any Iranian attacks today. We believe this would be the first day since this war began that Iran has not fired at the UAE here. So it appears Iran may be complying with the ceasefire, although it's 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll see what the rest of the day looks like. Now, yesterday, the UAE says Iran fired at this country, along with Israel and Kuwait. And the UAE put out a statement asking for clarification on the terms of the ceasefire. Vice President Vance offered some clarification, and he says the ceasefire requires Iran to stop firing at U.S. allies here in the Gulf.
I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
Now, yesterday, even after the ceasefire, Iran launched attacks across the Gulf region. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said it's possible the ceasefire took time to kick in. And in a new statement, an Emirates official says it's done being polite with Iran, writing, "Followers should not be surprised, frankly, by the UAE's positions in confronting the Iranian aggression against the Arab Gulf states. The era of courtesies has passed, and frankness has become a necessity. Our collective stance must be firm and clear toward the features of the upcoming phase in a way that enhances stability and security in the region." Now, throughout this, the UAE has said that the United States has become its greatest security partner in the world, and that the UAE will double down on its relationship with the United States. Brian.
Which flies in the face of one of those 10 points which says we have to evacuate the region, which is never happening. Matt Finn, thank you. Here to discuss this is retired Navy captain and former Pentagon official Brent Sadler. Brent, here we are, 4 ships yesterday. What do you expect to happen today? There was usually 100 going through the strait prior to this conflict.
No, absolutely. And only 17 have actually been hit by anything, most of them with minor damage since the beginning of this war up to yesterday, and 11 more suspected attacks that missed the target totally. So the overall odds or the ability and capacity of the Iranians to actually sink ships going through the Hormuz Straits at large numbers is suspect, to say the least. But nonetheless, insurance rates remain high, and as long as that's the case, it's going to take a lot more to get the confidence up that they can sail and to get those numbers up from the 4 you mentioned.
What do you think of a plan in place to take that strait once and for all? Have you seen some of these plans, and are they feasible and achievable?
Well, I haven't seen any of the plans. I've been retired for several years, and again, much of that is very much behind the curtain of secrecy. But with the movement of heavy bombers like the B-52s and the non-too subtle signaling that a new form of bombing campaign could be unleashed if the Iranians don't play ball, I think that also speaks to taking out some of the hardened sites there in the Straits of Hormuz. And I think the only way we're going to get that confidence back is if the United States escorts or allows large shipping to go through there with, say, Marines on board to basically challenge the Iranians and to see if they actually have the capacity to really shut down the straits, in effect, call their bluff. And with that air power, anything that moves will probably get hit.
You know, Vice President Vance said yesterday he doesn't even know if the speaker speaks enough English to understand the details of a deal. That seems to be a solvable problem by a thing called a translator. What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't buy that. I mean, the Iranians are not an honest broker. And quite frankly, by leaking out a totally laughable 10-point plan that they knew was not going to pass on any one of those points, by leaking that out, it sows political discord here in the United States for those that are the administration's opponents for cheap and short-term political gain. But it also sows a lot of confusion amongst our partners like the UAE, Israel, as to what exactly deal we're making with the Iranians. So this should be expected. There should be a cost on the Iranians for playing this game, certainly this late into this conflict.
So when the dust settles and the internet's back up, how much damage do you think has been done to that country?
Well, hopefully we'll get a lot more information without having to rely on the internet, and hopefully there's a lot more contacts on the ground there that are passing out what they're seeing. Again, the only way that we get to a long-term sustainable peace in the region is if the nature of whatever regime that comes in next in Tehran isn't a threat to its neighbors, to include Israel, and secondly, doesn't threaten to hurt American lives and doesn't threaten American interests. Meet those two very simple objectives. It's not the only way we're going to be assured a lasting peace in the region. But I think in the meantime, we need to make sure the U.S. has the leverage over whatever regime there is to hold them to the letter of whatever agreement that meets those two very basic requirements.
And Brent, real quick, militarily, this 2-week pause, if it does last 2 weeks, actually helps us. It helps us reload, maintenance the equipment, get other people in place, evaluate some things through satellite imagery. It really works to our military advantage should we need them again.
That's a high probability. It's noted that twice now the president's mentioned much to that effect, to rearm, reload, maybe reposition military forces for another phase of the attacks that he's been hinting is going to be more intense. This could be that kind of pause. How long is necessary? I don't think is the full 2 weeks.
Got it. Brent Sadler, great job. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.